So one of my favorite trainers has a saying, and she says it all the time: get comfortable with being uncomfortable, which realistically, if you think about it, it's actually pretty accurate, because life is always changing, and let's face it, we're just not always comfortable. Hence me. My name is Autumn, and typically I'm a photographer, so I'm behind the camera, not in front of the camera. So I'm not most comfortable in front of the camera, which I'm sure you've already figured out. But this is my getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. So this is Homestead Revolution, and I am currently in my garden. And even though I'm in Minnesota, and we do typically get enough moisture, and if you're in the Southwest like I am, or even central Minnesota, we've gotten quite a bit of rain. Iowa, South Dakota, just, our little corner, we've definitely gotten quite a bit of moisture this year. Unfortunately, it was all kind of at once, and so that was not great for the garden. It's not great for the farmers who are producing our food that goes to the grocery stores, local small farmers who do the farmers markets. Yeah, not great. So if you're like me and you have some plants that are doing wonderfully, hence some type of squash back here. I say that because my youngest daughter wrote on these little plastic labels for me, and a couple of them she was kind of vague with. So we're going to have to figure out what those ones are in particular. But then I have tomatoes clear at the end here, nearest that old hog shed. And I have several squares where there is nothing. I started weeding that again this morning. And then I have several squares that have quite a few of the tomato plants that are growing in there. But unfortunately, they're about this tall. So, I'd say probably maybe 8 inches tall. But definitely not where we want them, and certainly not where they're going to start bearing fruit anytime soon. And let's face it, it's July 12th. So realistically, during the month of July, I should be getting tomatoes, and I don't know that is going to happen. So maybe the end of July, we'll see how we can do. I keep moving because I have this sprinkler. You can hear it. I don't feel like getting blasted in the face like I was earlier. But so if you're like me and you're in, an area, maybe there's not a whole lot of moisture, or maybe you got too much moisture all at once, kind of drowned out some of your plants. Or better yet, maybe you did what I did. And so not only was I late to the planting game this year, and part of that is because we are newer to this area. We bought our farm property in September of last year. And so I had to kind of become acquainted with where the sun hits all day, where it's partly shaded because of trees that are around me, where you might have a, we lovingly call it our bayou, which is over here next to our big barn, minus the alligators. But, some slough or bogginess, and then where the water runs, which of course part of it, when we got all that moisture, part of it does actually run right where the tomatoes are. So unfortunately they got a little drowned, but at least they're coming out of it. So I was late to the planting game because I didn't know where exactly we were going to do it. And then on top of it, I was late in general because I didn't start seeds over the winter. You would think that I would have already had that taken care of, right? Like figured out what I was going to plant, but no, of course I waited till the last minute. And then on top of it, I decided that, we've had a pretty mild summer. We're just now kind of starting to get hot. We did have one day that was like in the 90s. But the last couple days now, well, let's see here. Yesterday it was almost 80. The day before it was definitely in the mid 80s. Today I think will probably be mid 80s also. But so we were pretty much still in that time period of the nice weather where you could go ahead and plant seeds and still have the opportunity for them to germinate. Ideally, the ground being 78-ish, 80 degrees. But you start hitting the 90s and it's too hot. It doesn't matter, it's not going to work well. So late to the planting season, decided I was going to plant seeds, not buy plants. And part of that too is because I didn't want to spend a ton of money on the garden. I'm not saying that you can't, but I did spend a ton of money on this fabric because I absolutely hate weeds. And this garden is huge. It's actually my largest garden that I've had in over 20 years. So I'm hoping that it will do all right and I can at least harvest some and put some up for the winter. I don't know that that's going to happen, truthfully. I'll just be honest. Probably won't. But at least I have a ton of lettuce and spinach that's growing behind me. And I have a great row of green beans right now that are coming up. And I do have some different squash. I have some different melons that are coming up. So, we'll eat good, summertime, fallish. And then we'll go ahead and we'll switch gears and get in a fall crop. And hopefully before too long, we'll be working on a greenhouse too. So we're actually looking at taking this old hog shed right here, which has what are they called? I can't even think right now. They have like the slats, and there's a pit underneath it. And so I'm actually going to do a hybrid wallopini in that. So what I mean by that is it will be underground, but then I will also have kind of like a second level where we can have plants and stuff. And then, we have the greenhouse top. So that allows us to be able to grow basically year round, which will be fun. But that's probably not for another year or two. Lots of things that we have to worry about. So back to the reason why I decided that this moment was going to be my time to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So we're in the garden and I'm thinking, wow, I have a lot of weeding, in certain spots, thankfully not this entire area. And we also, there's some, like I have some of the spots with tomatoes that I need to go ahead and thin them out. Well, I'm not going to pull them because I have spots that don't have tomatoes in them. So I'm going to go ahead and we will replant those in those available spots. That way, hopefully we will have some tomatoes the end of this month into August, which should be amazing. But how am I going to do that, right? Like, what's the best course of action? So one of the things that I like to do is I like to fertilize my garden. Lots of people do. And then there's people who don't, which, whatever works for you. In this sense, I use the organic Miracle Grow. I use the organic one. It's a black box because I just feel like the chemicals and stuff that are in Miracle Grow, I just prefer not to eat in any shape or form. But the organic form is a lot better. In fact, so much so that it was okay that I got sprayed in the face with it because, again, we're going to be eating this. So if you can't get sprayed with it, or, you probably shouldn't be eating it. But what's really cool is it was going to take me forever to water this garden by hand. And so my oldest daughter says to me, it's too bad that you can't hook this up to a sprinkler. And I said, yeah, that'd be great. But I've never seen anything like that. And then I got to looking at it. And on the Miracle Grow, container that you hook up to your hose, on the end of the one that I currently have, there is a little sprayer that's on it. And lo and behold, it unscrews off of the container to show a female end. Is it a female end? Yeah, a female end hose part. And I thought, wait a second, are you kidding me? And I've literally never heard anybody say this. I've never seen it. And I'll be honest, I didn't even check. I'm sure maybe if I Google it, somebody else was smarter than I was a long time ago. And discovered that you can actually hook it up to your sprinkler. Now, is it perfect? No. Yeah, I mean, you know, there's still water that's leaking off of there. And honestly, I think it's partly because I think I pulled the O-ring out. Because part of the O-ring that I had a mesh wire like sieve on it, sleeve, whatever you want to call it, to prevent particles from going up into the sprinkler and getting caught. But I pulled that out, and so that's probably why it's leaking. But the best part is I am literally fertilizing my garden, sort of hands-free, and not having to worry about standing out here holding a hose and then having to turn it off and move the hose. Now, I mean, I still have to turn it off and move the hose. But that is the absolute coolest thing ever. So props to my oldest daughter, Camille. Like, holy buckets, who would have ever thought? And this is going to make my life a lot easier. And I figured I would share that. And I will do that as soon as I have better service. So I hope you guys are having a little bit better luck than I am in the garden this year. And if you knew about this, or somebody has told you, or you've used it for years, leave me a comment and tell me. So I was today years old when I discovered that you can hook up the Miracle Grow container to my oscillating sprinkler for the garden. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Anyways, thanks for listening to my ramblings. Have a great day.